Hello everyone. Today we'll be discussing on the third unit in the first semester of Microbiology paper 1. It is entitled as History of Microbiology. In this topic, we are going to learn and understand the different discoveries which have been made in relation to the field of microbiology, different discoveries and inventions, different contributions, significant contributions, vital contributions made by different scientists and researchers, the different types of experiments that they perform, and accordingly the conclusions were made. So all these details will be studying under this particular topic. Understanding the discoveries and inventions under the topic of history of microbiology is very important because this will help us to understand in what way the subject has developed and what initial experiments were performed by different scientists and researchers. So studying of history of microbiology or any subject is very important in order to learn the difficulties that were faced during that particular period of time and what we can learn certain things from these difficulties and how these scientists they found out the solutions to these different problems. To begin with, first we'll discuss about the discovery of microscope and the microbial world. Whenever we discuss the history part and if we are discussing about the discoveries and inventions, now there is a difference between discovery and invention. Invention means construction of something new, whereas discovery means something is existing in the nature, it is already there in the nature and we are just disclosing it. Say for example, discovery of a piece of land. So piece of land, or if it is a plant species, if it is a microbial species, if it is a protozoan species, animal species, new animal species, all these are the discoveries because animals, plants, microorganisms, piece of land, then meteoroids, etc., 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 etc. All these are the existing parts of nature, and we are just disclosing its information. The information is made available to others to refer. That is called as discovery. But construction of something, a new machinery is constructed. Say, for example, a microscope is constructed. So, microscope is a construction of microscope. It will be considered as invention. So, by mistake, the topic of this title it should be the invention of microscope and it should not be the discovery of microscope. Discovery of microbial world, it is fine because microorganisms are existing and microorganisms ची discoveries असते, परंतु microscope हे invention आहे. Now let us discuss about the invention construction of microscope. The discovery of microbiology started in mid 1600 because the powerful light microscopes were not available. So the major barrier in order to discover the microorganisms was that time the powerful lenses. What is a microscope? Microscope is a combination of lenses. So the powerful lenses were not available sufficient enough to see very small objects like microorganisms. So it started in between 1600. There are many scientists or merchants, etc., etc., personnels who tried to build up different microscopes or the combination of lenses, but there are very few who succeeded in constructing a microscope having a good resolving power or good magnification. These are few which are mentioned here. First one, the first microscope, it was built up, constructed in 1590 or 95, and it was developed as the first compound microscope in Holland, and the inventor was Zacharias Janssen. So he developed this first compound microscope. So it was a combination of lens. The microscope enlarged the image of a specimen 3 to 9 times the original size of the object. So this is the picture of that inventor, Zacharias Janssen, and his microscope having a body tube, and that body tube, one body tube, inner body tube, and the outermost tube. So they were sliding on each other just to position the lenses. Then another vital contribution was made by Robert Hooke from 1635 to 1703. The Robert Hooke, he was the another person who constructed a better compound microscope as compared to the first one. So it was constructed in 1660s, and this Robert Hooke, he was from England, and he examined several materials using his simple compound microscope. This is the picture of this microscope constructed, two microscopes constructed by him. You can see these are the glass, combination of glass lenses, and the specimen was kept here, and there was a body tube like this, and the objects can be seen from the top, that is eyepiece. So he observed several things, and one of the important thing what he observed, and during which he made a very significant conclusion, and that was a slice of cork. When he was observing this slice of cork, he noticed that this cork, it consists of little boxes or small compartments. He called these compartments as cells, and this discovery was a remarkable discovery. Hooke's discovery marked the beginning of cell theory, and cell theory states that all the living things are composed of cells. So this is how the discovery of cells is in the name of Robert Hooke. Robert Hooke discovered the cells and also mentioned that all the living organisms are made up with these little boxes, like they are called as cells. He observed several materials, and he presented all these observations at the meeting of Royal Society of London. Royal Society of London, it is one of the agencies uh, which was there in England, that was uh, known to control all the or record the activities of researchers and discoveries. So all these observations were presented to Royal Society of London, and then he constructed a book, means all his observations. He published all these observations in a book. That book is called as Micrographia, which contains detailed drawings of all his observations, like he observed insects, insect larvae, seeds, eggs, feathers, rocks, hairs, cork, etc. etc. So these are the different observations, and this is the book that is called as Micrographia, which was published by Robert Hooke to present his all observations. So these are the diagrams, original diagrams. This seems to be a diagram of a fungus like mucor or penicillium. This seems to a TS of a plant material, where you can see the presence of plant cells, several compartments, drawings of insects, different insects like teak, mite, etc. So in addition to this, Hooke described the microscopic forms of fungi, commonly called as molds, as well as he observed several types of spores of mushrooms. Although Hooke's highest magnification were possibly enough to observe bacteria, but he made no observations of them because of lack of staining techniques. So that is the major drawback in Robert Hooke's discovery, that he made no observations of bacteria. The most significant contribution has been made by Antony van Leeuwenhoek. Its duration from 1632 to 1723. He is the discoverer of microbial world. That means he was the first person on the earth who could see different forms of microorganisms using his uh, simple compound microscope. He was a Dutch merchant, Antony van Leeuwenhoek from Holland. This is the picture of Antony van Leeuwenhoek with his drawings. He was the first person to observe the exciting and mysterious world of microorganisms from 1676 in Holland. He was not a trained scientist. It is very interesting to know he was a merchant, but he was a self-educated, and he was familiar with glass blowing and fine metal work. So he was aware of the construction of lenses because he was having the knowledge of glass blowing and metal work. So using his knowledge, he constructed this simple microscope. So his microscope, it consisted of lenses, the glass lenses, which provided the greater magnification or resolving power. So it was sufficient to visualize bacteria, protozoa, numerous other microorganisms, and the most important thing was the original object appeared 50 to 300 times greater as compared to its actual size. So it was a very huge greater magnification, and because of which he was able to see bacteria. This is the construction of his simple microscope. You can see the threads that are for the adjustment of position of lenses. So he examined a great variety of objects such as saliva, paper infusions, cork, the leaves of plant, the circulating blood in capillary vessels, in tail of salamander, seminal fluid, urine, cow dung, scrapings from his own teeth, and so on and so forth. So he observed variety of materials, and again he sent his observations to Royal Society of London, and after that he was called by the society and he was honored as a fellow of Royal Society of London in 1680, which was highly prestigious. For almost 50 years, until his death in 1723, Antony van Leeuwenhoek transmitted his discoveries to Royal Society of London in the form of a series of letters which were written in Dutch, but these letters have now been translated in English also. So he discovered a world of invisible creatures and he called them as animalcules. Animalcules means small animals. These are the different drawings of small animals which have been recorded by Anthony van Leeuwenhoek. These contain the picture of mycelium, then different forms of fungi, protozoa, insects, plant materials. You can see the insect larvae, eggs, different forms of fungi, protozoa. You can see at the bottom 36, 37, 38, 39 are the observations of bacterial cells. You can see. So these were the different observations which were made by Antony van Leeuwenhoek. So Antony van Leeuwenhoek's position in Antony van Leeuwenhoek's place in scientific history was not only because of his skills as a microscope maker, but also his skills of microscopic observations. His observations were descriptions of protozoa, algae, yeast, and various shapes of bacteria. This is very important. He made observations of microscopic structures of seeds and embryos of plants and on small invertebrate animals. He also discovered the existence of spermatozoa and blood cells, red blood cells, and thus he is also referred as the founder of animal histology. He also discovered the capillary circulation of blood. Robert Hooke, with his microscope, could not make fine observations reported by Antony van Leeuwenhoek, and that is the reason why Antony van Leeuwenhoek is considered as the father of microbiology.